shatter. Let the bodies hit the floor. Uprising Academy at 95%.
Right now with Hydra building up to this Bear Barrage so quickly.
Oh!
And asking!
Double kill in the back with the pulse bomb from the high ground. Aerial assault with that mine.
Impact se escucha de abajo gritar campeón a Sky Foxes.
Holy cow.
And after 42 consecutive losses, the Shanghai Dragons get their first win.
8 teams enter this weekend.
Oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing?
We got a clip with minimal information. It's time to break it down. Speed, 25%. Go. Figure out what this man's SR is.
Keep fighting till it's for sure lost. Winnable! Greetings, friends. We are here this final day, day 5 of NA Contenders Trials, and we are bringing you the matchup between Malibu and Noble in Group B. I am here with you, caster Rich Rad, with the one, the only, the true legend, Kenobi. Kenobi, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Rich. It's great to be back casting some NA Trials with you. We did some last season, we're doing some again this season, rounding everything out, and we have a game here where a lot of things could change and hinge on a couple of maps.
Yes, indeed, especially coming in with their placement. We'll allow you to get into some scoring and mathematics here with you, Kenobi, in just a moment, but we do have to notify everyone that there is an unfortunate announcement for Scion Esports, Nocturnal, and Regen. They have all been disqualified. All past and future matches, including these 3 teams, have been moved to a 3-0 scoring. The disqualified teams will go to the bottom of each respective group that they are in. In this case, the disqualified teams will be relegated to those bottom spots in each group, and they will be banned from the entire August cycle of Path to Pros program. So with those disqualifications, we have some interesting scorings here to see who actually will be moving into Contenders.
Yeah, we have a lot of math to get through here, Rich. There's a lot of different scenarios that we have to work with. So the first one is that if Karasuno, who's on the other stream right now, if they take a single map, they are going to go through and they're going to be in the Contenders for this next month, that tournament. The other way that this can work is that Revival, if they 3-0, they go through no matter what against Karasuno. But talking about the map that we have here specifically with Malibu and Noble, Malibu has to 3-0 right here. If they 3-0 and Karasuno gets 3-0'd, they're going to be going through due to their head-to-head win against Revival. So a lot of different scenarios that we have to look out for between this match and the other matches on the other stream. So if you got 2 monitors, definitely keep both of them up. Support
Right.
Tier 2 as much as you can and as possible as you can, because there's a lot of different ways that this could go down.
Well, either that, or if you are bound to just one, just do like the split screen. Just drag one to one side of the window, drag one to the other, and then you can like dodge between comments and you're just like, oh, that was great. Oh, this one was awesome. Hey, that one just happened here. Oh, back and forth. It'll be like, I don't know, attention span of a squirrel. That's my life, but we'll digress. As we now enter in onto the map of Busan between Noble and Malibu. And Malibu, to be honest, is a more favored team here. We've also seen some serious play earlier. Myself and Paul had the chance to really discuss a lot when it came to Wannabe and just how relevant that hit scan and DPS player is. And also the dynamic between Cedro and Odd. Those are, I think, the key things we would want to look more at Malibu. And with Noble, how they've been playing, it's really just, I think, how they kind of come out here to compete against a well-composed and organized team.
Yeah, when I've been looking at Malibu throughout the time that I've been able to see them in Contenders trials, there's a lot of coordination that I really like from them, specifically between, like you mentioned, Cedro and Odd. I think they have some really good coordination. And if you're going to be playing Winston Zarya, you're going to absolutely need to have some good coordination. Because me and you, Rich, we've casted some teams where, especially in Chinese Contenders, you're playing Zarya, Winston, the Winston goes in, there's no bubble there. That Winston gets blown up almost immediately. So in this current meta, I want to see more coordination between those two tank roles. And I think this team on Malibu specifically, they do a very good job of it. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for, to see if they can continue to use that ability and that cohesion between them.
Well, and, to speak about, the counterpart now, Noble, with how Teemo and Moose have been playing on this double shield composition, they're going to go a little bit more for that type of, meta composition, specifically with the Brig, with the Baptiste for the support lineup, and this Ashe Genji. Typically, we see some rotation coming out with the Tracer fulfilling that Ashe role, so you have more of this backline harass and somewhat dive-centric kind of composition between the Genji and the Tracer. But I personally think with this map of Busan that the Ashe is actually going to yield a lot more value to try and compete against Malibu.
Yeah, and we also have to remember that Genji still is very strong in this current current patch that we were on in the Contenders trials. He hasn't been nerfed as much as he is on live. So Genji's still going to be a very important part of this meta as we start off here. Both teams dancing around each other, not too low on the health bars just yet, but Wannabe's on the flank here. They're gonna have to respect him because you mentioned it, Rich. Wannabe, a very good hit scan in his own right, and if they step a little bit out of place, Wannabe takes off their heads.
Well, and there was a nice shield to prevent it and this rotation coming out from Noble to understand and respect that position. And Teemo getting this early kill onto Odd, but evenly exchanged. Now you've got that pick by Wannabe. Again, not respecting that sightline. Another comes through, looking for a pick onto the tank line, but that shield for the sliver that remains kept that tank up. But now with those panels coming up in time, a lot of it is sightline from Wannabe. So again, this reposition is critical. There's another pick by Wannabe in the back as the front line continues to dominate. And you have Malibu finally persevering despite that early pick that Teemo had onto Odd.
I mean, cometh the hour, cometh the man. We talked about it at the start. Wannabe is the one to look out for, and he gets 3 clean headshots onto the entirety of Noble there. Ultimate Web has actually switched over to the Tracer just to make Wannabe's life miserable and make sure that they aren't able to just sit in the back and just headshot the rest of their team. So this is a really good switch and adaptation from Noble, but the way Wannabe's playing, they got to really make sure that he gets taken out.
With that Dragon Blade entering in, already removing the Immortality field, the triple, the quad comes through with Ultraviolet, getting a little taste of that fight, and manages to clean house 52% in climbing, and Malibu is doing a stellar job on this first map in Mecca.
Malibu has complete control of the map right now, Rich. 60% already in their favor. Noble haven't really been able to farm up a lot of their ultimates. Ultimate Web had to switch over to the Tracer, so there is no Genji Blade coming through. They realistically only have the Baptiste Ant Matrix right now. That's a huge anti coming out from Ultraviolet that's going to stop Noble from aggressive here.
Well, and look at how quickly Cedro is responding to this backline Tracer play. You wanted to try and get that dynamic to this team composition, but it's easily being responded to. Cedro now going to go into the back. The entire team is clustered. The Primal Rage is there. It is a pincer maneuver, and Cedro is going to escape cleanly. Focusing now on this underpass to try and get Moose out of the fight and not allow any sort of defensive capabilities with that shielding. The juggle continues. The stun comes out to finally counter that Primal Rage, which does cease. And this interesting rotation by Eiko to get rid of that supercharger. Tensa now has to force the rally on this support play to keep the team alive on the front, but really it's only going to be Tensa who does get the extra armor. There is still a chance for Noble to switch this back, and it finally does come through with scrappy repositions.
I mean, also a very expensive fight for Noble there, Rich. They used a lot of the ultimates that are very important coming into this next fight. They do end up winning the fight in general, but at 99% for Malibu, you definitely take that. You've taken away a lot of the important ultimates. The tank ultimates are gone, the support ultimates are gone as well. You only have Ultimate Web's Pulse Bomb here that can really open up this fight, and he dies and uses it.
He tosses it in front almost as if you're going to have Cedro pass over it to potentially get some damage onto it is how it looked, but that was really just a toss-away ultimate. Did not gain value, and now with that reduced, you only have Bob going to be thrown out by my Crazy Cat, and you've got a Blade in return coming out from Malibu. Eiko has a lot of room to work with, does reduce the health value. You can't get the execution here, but the grab clustering the remaining members of Noble will allow that dominance and pressure of the damage to come through. The shield cannot block that amount of energy charge, and you will be vaporized while Malibu transitions down to the low point, cleaning up Teemo, picking off this Tracer, and will look to take it back.
A very easy cleanup here going to be happening for Wannabe and Ultima. Like, it's standing there, you know what? He's just like, whatever, dude. I know it's already over. I'm just going to go ahead and just take a chill pill right now. But they just drag over kills right now. Ultimate's committed, Rich. It doesn't really matter too much. It's going to be Malibu taking this first map. Quick and, I would say, pretty clean for Malibu. I mean, just off the back of when Wannabe hit those first 3 headshots, it seemed like Malibu had complete control for the rest of the game until they lost that one fight where all the ultimates came in from Nova, but then they sacked their ultimate economy. And after that, Malibu just says, okay, we're going to have an ultimate economy advantage, and then we can win off the basis of that. So for Malibu, very easy for them at the start of this. And we're going to Sanctuary, Rich, where if there's one place on Busan where Widowmakers reign supreme, it is this map in particular. So again, for Noble, you're going to have to be very careful about playing around Wannabe's sightlines here. They're going to be putting My Crazy Cat on their own Widowmaker, meaning that they have someone to deal with that hit scan threat. I wonder if Ultima will decide to either play the Tracer here, which it is going to be, so that means they're going to play the Tracer just to really make it a point to harass Wannabe out of all of the sightlines that he wants to have and have him not be as much of a nuisance as he was on that front.
And we've seen this before where the Widow matchup on this map can be chaotic. It's not only a proactive, but a reactive type of positioning battle. Wannabe getting already harassed in the back line, as we said, from Ultra. As you said earlier, with the dive back and forth, it's like this ebb and flow from Ultima, transitioning to the Widow, still staying out of sightlines, and getting some pressure on the supports, while Wannabe finds an opportunity now to press forward since the attention has been driven towards the support line from Ultima, uncontested. Eiko on the front gets a pick onto Teemo. The Immortality field has been forced out from Malibu, so at this point, My Crazy Cat needs to find some value because there is nothing preventing those headshots from coming through, and the shields are so reduced here, it's just a back and forth battle right now.
Yeah, Tensa does have the rally going, but there is a Dragon Blade. Ultima gets a kill, but I think the Dragon Blade is going to win out here, Rich, and it's going to be Malibu taking that first fight. Very elongated fight, and you see Wannabe ending it with 2 headshots. And the thing that you get when you have the Genji instead of the Tracers, you have a lot more front-loaded damage onto those tanks right there, because the Tracer is sitting in the back line trying to farm more so off of the supports. The Genji is in the front, and you saw Eiko get a very nice early pick that kind of set the tone of that entire fight. So it's now Malibu who are in the driver's seat, not using a lot of ultimates either, only just the Amplification Matrix and the Dragon Blade, which are ultimates that farm up very quickly. So for Malibu, again, in the driver's seat when it comes to this ultimate economy.
And now the rotation happens on the cross side of the map. Wannabe is also going to find the pick onto My Crazy Cat, and there is just a fast cleanup after that initial pick. And another onto Ultima. Ultima just says, I'm just going to toss my pulse guns away, and you're just going to take my hat off.
And again, it's Wannabe who just is owning right now in the... He could have hit that shot. He could have hit that shot, too. He's kicking himself right now. I know how that feels, except I don't because I'm not a very good Widowmaker, but I imagine I know what it feels like when Widowmakers have easy shots like that and they miss, so... He is not going to be able to get those kills, but he's still owning right now in the Widow 1v1 against My Crazy Cat. Getting very low here, going to have to be healed up, but they're going into a Supercharger coming out from Malibu.
And that Supercharger needs to gain value with this Gravitic Flux on the return side. The Accretion comes down in the back, does actually get the stun and kill onto Cedro. My Crazy Cat has to reposition once again, and with Ultima on the front, it's just causing a lot of harass to Wannabe, which is a great pickup. This full spot coming from the side, does land a stick, will get a nice clean kill onto Odd since the health value was low, and Noble is in a position to take it back and change this momentum and hopefully start climbing back.
And really good positioning there, I think, from Moose as well. He flanks around and comboed with a headshot from Wannabe, takes out, or not from Wannabe, from My Crazy Cat, takes out Cedro. And once that Orisa is gone, you lose so much point presence, and then the ultimates are all in favor of Noble. Ultima up here, though, on the flank. What is he looking for right here? He's looking for a straggler. Can he get the Widowmaker? But they know he's the Venomine. Really good Venomine placement from Wannabe. He knows exactly where Ultima Wep is now.
And Wannabe's been playing this way because of the Tracer since the start. Those Venomines have been critical to try and show the location of Ultima. Tensa on the front does get a takedown, but Wannabe says, you ain't dashing or recalling from me, my friend. With a blade coming out in addition by Eiko on the point. Slashing through the front line, doesn't get the kill because Tensa's there on the defense with the rally to secure some extra armor, but now that it is gone, you have the flux, the rise and fall onto Moose. If you give a Moose a flux, he hits the ground hard, and that's now going to be a quick cleanup right now for Malibu, and well played overall. This is going to be desperation for Noble to change up onto potentially quick-moving characters to touch this point.
Did you just make a give a Moose a cookie joke?
It was a muffin.
Muffin? Did you just okay. I just want to make sure that's what you're doing. This is last fight, by the way, from Malibu. If they win this, they're going to be able to take the series. Noble here walking in. They have Timo back on the hammer to try and touch. Doesn't get able to touch, but gets in eventually, but extremely low.
Really low, and the fact that you've got Fishcake with this rally in the back end of it, just in case anyone starts to press onto this point, to make it absolutely difficult to press onto this point, and Wannabe getting a pick from the get-go of that fight, already having the numbers advantage. You've got this full bomb damage in the backside, but not going to be enough. Once again, getting taken down. Eiko for the triple, the headshot in sight, but there's a dash to clean it up, and that will be Malibu claiming the first map of Boost on quite convincingly throughout both maps.
I'd say very convincingly, Rich. And again, we talked about it at the start. You mentioned it when we were coming into this game, where it was Wannabe, the person who we're looking out for. Cedro and Odd played very well, but I think Wannabe, with just the amount of domination he had in the Widowmaker 1v1, especially on that map, I think my Crazy Cat killed him maybe twice, and Wannabe killed him like 7-8 times. Like, it was not a very close Widowmaker 1v1 between both of these Widowmakers. And I think especially on Busan and those maps that we were on, Mecha Base and on Sanctuary, Widowmakers reign supreme on a lot of those maps. And if you're winning the 1v1 that hard as a Widowmaker, and let's remember that he's going up against a Tracer as well. It's not just like him 1v1 against the Widowmaker. It was almost somewhat of a 1v2 a lot of the times, where he has to also worry about the Widowmaker and has to worry about the Tracer next to him. So for Wannabe to win that against both of those odds, I think that just proves how good of a hit scan player he is. And going through the rest of this series, something has to change for Noble to try and deal with him, because this man is on another level right now, and he can very easily carry this Malibu team to a 3-0 that they need to try and get into that contender spot.
Well, to build on that even further is also just the dynamic of how it was played. Because Wannabe was being harassed by the Tracer, it allowed My Crazy Cat to have more of that frontline pressure, which we talked about, and able to get some picks between the shield. So you're essentially just redirecting attention. And what also happened too is that the fact that Wannabe got that forward position after those couple of kills and those first initial fights, and we saw him miss those shots, but despite missing the shots, that is a mental game right now. You have Wannabe playing so far forward, and catching My Crazy Cat off like that is a huge mind game.
It sets the tone, I think, is exactly how I would describe it, where, especially on Mecha Base, like we saw, Wannabe gets those first 3 picks. Malibu basically doesn't lose for another 80%, right? They basically continue to hold that map for as long as they could before the ultimates just were too much not in their favor. And we saw it again on that last map as well, where they are committing so many resources for Noble to try and deal with Wannabe that the ground game, or just the 4v4 or 5v4 that we're having on the point, is going to be in the favor of Malibu, because you have Genji with all of that front-loaded damage. So for Malibu, I really like how they are trustworthy of Wannabe. He says, okay, and even then, like we saw Cedro sometimes dive onto the Tracers that were trying to deal with Wannabe. They trust him enough, but when they need to help him, they are always there to help him. And I think that's something Malibu does extremely well, and that I've seen them do throughout the entirety of Contenders. And it's Contenders Trials, again, their coordination. That's what this team is based off of.
And with that coordination, they will be bringing it into this on the attacking side. I'm really interested to see how the coordinated play on this high ground from Noble is going to maintain positioning, and how their rotation from this high ground to the low ground is going to occur when the time is right.
And we now have mirror compositions from both these teams. No Widowmakers, just Ashley, Ask Genji v Genji. One last ride for this composition, Rich, as Genji is going to be having his legs cut out from under him with those nerfs. So let's enjoy it while we can. Also up a little bit ahead in terms of the ultimate charge, and almost gets a kill onto Cedro. That would have been big.
Don't get me started on nerfs. We're going to talk about Orisa after this, as we now move in onto this with that Orisa leading. Cedro going to get pulled out front, but the immortality is expended by Violet. That will give Noble an opportunity to press forward. The amplification matrix actually going to be committed to this with how quickly Ultraviolet managed to get it through surviving through all of that incoming damage, and will shift the momentum.
And you can see just Ultimate Web was so close to Dragon Blade there that could have turned the tides, but with how much damage that Noble was doing, Ultraviolet was in such a clutch position to be able to heal through all of it and keep the members of his team alive. You saw Seadra there, 130 health. If he doesn't get any help or Immortality Field, he's going to die, and Malibu most likely loses that fight. So really credit to Ultraviolet in that last fight for making some really clutch plays and clutch heals. And now Malibu, they can start to snowball this. They have the Genji Blade to work with. There is also the tank ultimates for Malibu that they have ahead of Noble. So this is going to be a lot of powerful effects coming in this next fight, Rich.
Yeah, with the Flux gonna lift up so many members away from that amplification matrix in the back. And despite the Flux getting a few, there is still a great resolve here by Noble to take this fight to them.
And Noble actually played that really aggressively, which I like. They saw that Seadra was a little bit out of position and by himself. They aggress onto him very early, and then they throw their ultimates into the fight. Too much for Malibu to handle. And Malibu as well, they didn't commit that many ultimates. That's the best thing for them, is they only use the Griddick Flux. They still have ultimates to work with. They have the Dragon Blade, and they have their tank ultimates.
And with that Dragon Blade coming out, just dashing out of the way from the Flux, Moose does not stop that backline pressure, along with Bob being there as well. Just a complete and utter forward momentum by bypassing that and keeping two out in the open to really still continue to harass Noble, and this payload is going to keep moving.
A very expensive fight, though, for Malibu, all things considered, Rich. As you can see, a lot of their ultimate charges below that 10% mark. That means they used a lot of them in that last play. And Noble, they have the supercharger to work with. They're going to have the rally. The sustained advantage is going to be in the favor of Noble here. I'd like to see them play this a little bit more aggressively, know that they have the advantage, and stop giving Malibu so much space here on the card.
Yeah, the space really needs to narrow. I mean, you had a little bit of a backline pressure. The fact that my Crazy Cat gets out Eiko, leads into this next fight, the Dynamite transition back from that backline position is huge to give that extra reinforcement, and this was a great response, taking down the overzealous play, I would say, by Eiko, and really using it to Noble's advantage.
Eiko getting a little bit too big for his britches, but all things considered, Noble played that exactly how I wanted them to play it. They use the rally and they use the supercharger. They know they have those advantages. They push Malibu off the cart, and they take space away from Malibu. Now the Noble knows that they can set their defense up right here. They have some ultimates to work with, like the amplification matrix and the Bob, to stall whatever is going to be coming here through from Malibu.
Yeah, Bob being online shortly is going to be very, very helpful for Noble, especially with the position of this cart, because you can really reside on that balcony or the high ground of the saloon and see how Malibu is going to rotate through here. There's a lot of damage being forced in that narrow corridor, and with this change up from Malibu going and surrounding that county jail, the amplification matrix is going to force a lot of damage, and this dash already to lead into it is critical. But now, Ultima has the blade. Will it be thrown out at the end of this with the Flux? It does come through. There is one dash reset. The Immortality Field is still there. Nobody else is going to help get rid of it, and that can't allow Ultima to persevere through that incoming damage. And the complete swap in dominance. You've got Eiko with the triple. You may be able to throw him up in the sky and miss a blade, but I'm not missing my slashes, friend.
And Noble there, unfortunately, aren't able to win that fight. Malibu's going to be able to take it. They almost had it with their Flux Genji combo, but the slashes and resets just weren't there for Ultima Weapon. Actually, he's going to be forcing him onto, well, he was on the Tracer, now he's back on the Genji, so foregoing some of that ultimate charge that he could have had ahead of his counterpart in Eiko on Malibu. But all things considered here for Malibu, they are able to keep a lot of the ultimates that they would have liked to have. Odd misses that jump there. He's not going to be happy with that one. But Seadra, he's able to keep that supercharger, one of the most important ultimates in the game. Teemo has to get this in time for this next fight, and it looks like he will.
Yeah, it needs to come through for this, especially if you want to try and synergize Pizza Demon and Teemo together to get so much.
Okay,
but
what?
Oh my. The spears right now coming out from Odd are absolutely on point, and that's going to force a reset here. You thought it was only any blade you've got I can blade better from Eiko, but the fact that Odd's here just saying, no, I can do stuff too, friend. Odd's actually going to come out here, Kenobi, with a supercharger to boost. Not going to be directly in sightline for that Bob extra boosted damage, but it doesn't matter. There's already a huge lead, and there is so much just forward aggression by Malibu, and the bell shall toll for this team to be obliterated. Noble right now allowing such a great time bank for Malibu to carry over into a following round.
that was a rather convincing push from Malibu there, and off of the back of Ultima getting a little bit too greedy, caught with his pants down, going up there and getting some hyperspheres to the face. But off of the back of that, they knew they had their advantage in terms of the DPS. So Malibu, I like that they played that aggressive style, punishing a mistake that Noble made, and that's something that Malibu has actually been very good at throughout Contenders trials, is when there's those teams that make those mistakes, Malibu is always there. If you give this team an inch, they will take the entire mile, and they take all of Hollywood here with 2 minutes and 13 seconds left. So now they're going to be on the defense. Don't expect realistically anything to change, Rich, in terms of the competition.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. In some respects, it's not only take an inch, take a mile. It's like take an inch, take a marathon. I mean, with how well Malibu has been able to exploit this type of just given space. And also these staggered picks. When you are odd and you take out Ultima, that is so debilitating. And you're like, oh, I really regret peeking that corner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Ultima there, you're just like, well, I maybe shouldn't have flown too close to the sun. There's Icarus there. And for Noble, I mean, they're showing Crazy Cat on the Reaper. Definitely not going to happen. That's even though we have a pause and we get to look at it a little bit longer on our screen, that's not going to be there. Reaper not really prevalent too much in the current meta. That's going to be an Ashe. And for Malibu, again, you're talking about how Ultima made a little bit of a mistake there going on the Genji. I mean, they're so good at dealing with the opposing DPS, right? Whether it's Eiko, whether it's Wannabe, even back on Busan, Wannabe when he was in the 1v2 a lot of the time, or 1v1 against Ultima on the Tracer, Wannabe was winning that a couple of times. So for Malibu, they don't really seem worried with the DPS threat of Noble so far.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. And you touched on it while we were talking about Busan, is that there has to be some kind of adjustment to start really getting Wannabe uncomfortable. And if you can even start getting that small margin of discomfort to a player like Wannabe, that's where things are going to really start shifting, because that small discomfort can grow to just a sheer lack of performance. And I would really like to see that. I mean, again, you talked about how we're going to have, Reaper on the sheet right now for what we're looking at, but that's probably not going to happen. It's not typically having that type of, character come out in this typical meta. And I would almost like to see, as Noble push into this, I would like to see them almost take that side right position through the archway versus trying to compete on the high ground, and maybe just draw attention away by taking the full sweep around onto the patio and forcing Malibu to have to drop down and meet them head on in that sense. I think that might be a better route, because Malibu notoriously is able to get a better pick. So if you can have this bob and weave from Noble, that might be a better opportunity.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And for, again, when we talk about Malibu, even if you do make Wannabe uncomfortable, which it hasn't been done yet for Noble, he hasn't been in the kill feed that much this map, at least so far. It's been Eiko. So you do have another threat. Even if Wannabe goes down, you have Eiko on the Genji, who's played pretty well so far. You also have the tank line, who's playing extremely well together. I'd say Cedro and Otter playing on another level right now compared to Teemo and Moose. So for Malibu, it's like if you shut down Wannabe, there's still other facets of the team that can step up and fill his place to be on that carry role.
Mm-hmm. And it actually looks like we are going to be entering back in. The pause is coming to its end as we get to see that lovely chair on top of the roof. I love how our server was just like, that right there is prime content for you viewers.
Hey, I mean, sometimes you don't see that too often. I don't see it because I play on low graphics anyway, so like chairs don't load for me. Unlucky for me. But as we see,
as even our pod says tragedy, but
Noble here, they're just playing this patiently. I like this. They're waiting for the perfect moment to go in. Pizza Team getting extremely low. Doesn't force out yet that immortality field. The Reaper's actually staying, Rich. That's the biggest part of this.
Wow, yes, we are going to see it. We will be instantly shown up by the play, but instantly going to be brought down, which is maybe what's giving more reasoning for our discussion. At the start, you've got Wannabe cleaning up again with the dynamite, and that's a reset coming out. I'm curious of the thought process when it comes to my Crazy Cat's decision on the Reaper. I know that it's got more of that brawly sense when you rush the point, but right now, with how well Malibu was playing, I don't think that's the answer.
Wait, what is he doing? What?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, he has passive alt charge right now. Like, the thing about Reaper here is he doesn't realistically synergize at all with the composition that Noble is running. Reaper's a character that always wants to brawl, has a lot of self-sustain, but the way that My Crazy Cat played in that first round was he tried to play Assassin Reaper, which hasn't really ever been a thing except for the playoff meta that one time. So that's 1 minute and a half that's taken off the clock for Noble, where they haven't really done anything. They've gotten Ultimate Wept close towards his Genji Blade, and they also have the Ant Matrix, but I'm not sure how much it'll do.
No, but actually, that was a great follow-up onto Odd up top as the remaining members of Malibu rotated down. And now you're going to have My Crazy Cat jumping onto that high platform. Here comes the assassination with the halt and the Dragon Blade. The Immortality field does go down because of the focus from My Crazy Cat. And surprisingly, Noble manages to make this work. I can guarantee you My Crazy Cat heard us by saying the one time it worked, and Crazy Cat's like, I'm going to make it happen a second time.
I mean, nothing makes sense anymore, Rich. This is working. It shouldn't realistically be working, but the way that Noble is playing is actually... It took them a while, like at the start, where they took that minute and a half, where they had some issues with My Crazy Cat, but once it ended up started working, actually, the tank line of Noble really came in clutch there with some really good halt accretion coming out from Teemo and Moose, and now My Crazy Cat has a little bit more room to work with on this B side of Hollywood. They just have to be careful not to get assassinated like that from Eiko.
Yeah, that needs to stop. There's a great halt flux though, lifting multiple members. If there's a follow-up on this, that's going to be great, but the defense from Malibu will be able to persevere. Fishcake dropping that rally just in time to survive, and the transition now coming back in where Malibu can take advantage of this. And look at how well timed that Immortality field was. But it's not going to be able to last long enough because at this point, surprisingly, My Crazy Cat and Ultimate synergizing well between the two of them, pressing forward and now having stacked Ultimate economy to Malibu.
So the way that I actually think that this My Crazy Cat thing is working for Noble is it actually eats a lot of cooldowns from Malibu and on Noble, where it's like you have to deal with it. You can't just let the Reaper go into your backline. You have to force out things like the shield bash. You have to force out sometimes halts or accretion to make sure he goes down, and then you don't have it for the Genji. You don't have it for Hulk Critic Fluxes. My Crazy Cat's just there to eat CC and eat cooldowns, and it's actually forcing Malibu to switch Wannabe onto that Echo, and with Noble's composition, they have nothing to deal with an Echo in the air like this.
No, and the Sticky Bomb's going to be very heavily onto the Supercharger. It doesn't actually go down here, so there's still going to be some boosted damage. Ultima gets stunned and crowd controlled out with Wannabe focusing with that beam to make sure that there is an easy cleanup, and since there is no one to respond to Wannabe, this is just free damage overhead with the ground floor of the Malibu cleaning up and just shy of that next checkpoint for Noble.
And you saw a little bit there, Rich, of how Malibu at least played really well around both of the DPS having to get some CCs on them. You saw Ultimate gets bashed really quickly, ends up dying in his blade, and then My Crazy Cat uses a teleport behind to try and use the Death Blossom, also gets CC'd to all hell and ends up going down. So Malibu's starting to learn what this composition and what this DPS lineup is going to do from Noble's side, and Malibu have the advantage now. They have a Dragon Blade to work with. They also have both their tank ultimates. They're in the driver's seat for sure coming into this next fight.
Driver's seat indeed, and they're buckled up and ready to go. We've got this correction amplification matrix coming out from Pizza even getting a lot of focus fire, and actually you're going to have My Crazy Cat almost obliterate Cedro on the front line, barely able to get covered by the supports. Fishcake does rally very early and doesn't go on to everyone. Eiko has to reply with a blade in the thick of this Death Blossom, and the fact that that drew so much attention in this redirection from Noble, I will say it for you, that was an expensive ult economy from Noble's spend.
Yeah, definitely expensive, but I mean, that realistically, for Odd, that's the second time this map so far, this attack even, that we've seen Odd. He's in a position by himself, playing a very aggressive Sigma, and then for Noble, they're just like, okay, we're just going to use our amplification matrix, we're going to take you down very quickly, then you don't have a Sigma, you don't have your Flux, you don't have Kinetic Grasp to eat the Reaper Ultimate, so for Noble, now this shoe is on the other foot, where they're doing a really good job of punishing some of these greedy plays coming out from Noble.
And I mean, let's be honest, let's just acknowledge that we saw a Blade come out, and that it now is almost back up for Ultima, and you had also Crazy Cat as well, now nearing another themselves. So this is so much damage coming out from both of the DPS lineup from Noble. I mean, I'm really curious to see how Malibu is going to be able to respond to this on this defense through this doorway.
There is a Grunetic Flux to deal with the Blade once it goes in, though, Rich. That's probably the best thing that they have. And they're all in a corner here. That's 3.
Yeah, that's a huge, absolute dominant play in the corner here. cleaning it up. Not too much really expended. Only going to be the flux necessary to pick that up. So it's going to allow this momentum shift for Malibu to start generating some ultimates leading into this last fight. And they're going to be in a good position with this last minute and third.
Yeah, Odd said there, I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. And they take him down with all their AoE abilities. And again, we see that the Reaper comp, it has worked in these first two parts, coming up slowly on that Reaper Death Blossom, but it can't go down right here, has to probably Wraith away, and Eiko again, Ultima, both have their ultimates online. The difference is that Teemo has Supercharger to combo with the Blade.
Ooh, Ultima's gonna come in the backside with that forward place Supercharger. There is a chance now to get rid of the duplication, does manage to do so, and a cleanup is actually coming out in return, though, from Malibu. This flank and rotation by Wannabe and Eiko are dominating and going to hold again.
It's Wannabe again. When you need someone on Malibu to take those clutch moments, it's Wannabe who you look out for in there. An insanely good flank from him in a fight that looked almost that it was going to be completely lost from Malibu's side. And Noble use a lot of their ultimates. They use the Super Blade, and now Malibu has the advantage when it comes to that important Supercharger ultimate. So for Noble, with 25 seconds left, you're going into a bad situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only opportunity is to maybe get a really great flux to lead into the Death Blossom, but my crazy cat cannot afford to go down and is taken out by Wannabe. The proximity and the poke speed is more than enough, and Eiko will follow up. 10 seconds to go. Malibu in a dominant fashion on this defensive position will be able to hold Noble back. The stragglers now are all that remain. The overtime shall wick down. Wannabe gets the Supercharger in the duplicate to bolster everyone and absolutely vaporize my crazy cat. And that will be Malibu taking a second map here in this first to 3.
And I'll give credit to both teams, Rich. Adaptation is something that I am actually really happy to see there. We saw the Reaper. I was very skeptical of it at the start, as you could tell, but ends up doing some pretty good things on those first 2 points. But then it's Malibu who then in turn is able to switch their composition up a little bit with Echo coming in, some character that we haven't seen in such a long time, and with the composition from Noble, not realistically anything that you have to deal with an Echo flying in the skies like that and pumping out so much damage. So adaptation from both teams looking pretty good, but it is Malibu who has a 2-0 lead right now going in to our third map, and we said it before at the start, they need to 3-0 here, and they're looking to do it.
Absolutely. It is a 100% dominant play so far, but again, adaptation is key. Will that adaptation continue by Noble to start transitioning and shifting the momentum in their favor to try and strip this away from Malibu, or can Malibu take this third match point and carry it over to put themselves in a potential contender spot? So don't go anywhere, friends. We've got more Overwatch coming up to see if they can and will maybe get this map.
Academy, they lay down the shatter, let the bodies hit the floor. Uprising Academy at 95%.
Right now with Hydra building up the Despair Barrage so quickly.
Oh,
and asking.
Double kill in the back with the pulse bug from the high ground. Aerial assault with that mine.
Impact se escucha de abajo gritar campeón a Sky Foxes.
Holy cow.
And after 42 consecutive losses, the Shanghai Dragons get their first win.
8 teams enter this weekend.
Oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing?
We got a clip with minimal information. It's time to break it down. Speed, 25%. Go. Figure out what this man's SR is.
Keep fighting till it's for sure lost. Winnable!
So you queue up for Overwatch Ranked, only to be greeted by this, which then leads to this, and oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing? The solution? Elo Hell pickup games.
Hey, you know what? Just what you're doing.
Oh my god, it's huge! Oh! Kill! Let's go!
Open to players of all ranks and most platforms, Pugs give you the chance to experience competitive Overwatch as it was meant to be played, competitively.
I need help.
I'm with you.
Shoot.
No way, dude.
Go. Let's go. Nice. Good call.
Players set their icons to indicate the role they want to play, then two captains pick their teammates and draft the most competitive teams they can. You can also take part in our pioneering learning event, Coached Pugs. To take part, join the Elo Hell Pickup Games Discord, and be sure to read the Pug Guide and FAQ. Good luck, have fun, and we'll see you in-game.
Hello and welcome back, friends. We've got more Overwatch action for you. We are here going to see Noble versus Malibu continued. 2 points already in favor of Malibu, where Noble is going to have to start really putting in every effort possible to try and get this as a reverse sweep. We've seen it before. It's rarely happened, but it can always be an option here, Kenobi. So what do you think Noble has to do to really change this up?
It's interesting. I like the adaptations that they were doing. Like, I think that's probably the best way that they were going to, if you try and catch Malibu off their footing a little bit, I think that's probably the best way that we've seen them look throughout the series so far, because when it's the mirror, Malibu's crushing it. And we're going to Junkertown. Now, Junkertown is a map that is very, very Widow favored throughout the entirety that this map has been a thing. And we saw Wannabe in Busan. And Wannabe was murdering the other team. So for Noble, I wonder why they picked it. I believe they picked this, or is it just set maps?
It's predetermined.
It's predetermined map set. So they didn't pick this. Then I'm very scared if I'm Noble that this is going to be Junkertown because you're going up against Wannabe's Widowmaker most likely. And after the way Busan went, where he basically took your team to task, I don't know. Something's got to change for them in terms of just that Widowmaker matchup, or this is going to be very difficult for Noble.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. And honestly, we're in a place called Junkertown, and if Wannabe continues, they are going to be just as dirty of a player as this landscape that they are on here. I mean, it has to somewhat give, and you've got My Crazy Cat looking to answer with a Widowmaker of their own. I can only hope to see that My Crazy Cat pulls a cat out of a hat or out of a box.
Cat out of
the bag. I know. I literally could not think of what it was, so I tried.
I mean, I said give a moose a cookie when it was.
I know it's okay. We're even now. We don't know what we're doing, friends. We're picking the other brain. We're like halfway, and it's okay. We support one another, just like you all should continue to support tier 2. As we go into this now, Noble on the attack, or correction, on the defense. My Crazy Cat's got to pick a lot out of this. And there's a lot riding on their shoulders right now, Kenobi.
And I wonder how Ultimate is going to play this. You can see he's playing by the fence, so gonna be trying to pressure maybe a little bit of Wannabe on these sidelines. Go behind and see if he can get any damage, just to make sure that Wannabe isn't comfortable with these Widow sightlines that he would most likely like to be. And we're just going to see slow pushes coming out from both these teams until a pick comes through from either one of the Widows or one of the Genjis or someone on the tanks makes a misstep. Ooh. That was very close. My Crazy Cat almost got that shot on the Wannabe. That could have been the pick that they needed, but we're still just waiting as this car pushes forward.
Yeah, tensions are high as we get these POV positions from the Widowmakers, just seeing who will be able to get that initial takedown. But there is already one on the Sigma dynamic up front, and My Crazy Cat gets the pick in the corner on to Wannabe. This is a numbers advantage for Noble, and they are needing to be very careful not to press too far forward. Moose respectfully diverting back and regrouping with the team to not stagger this out.
And Teemo did press a little bit too forward there, Rich, so now Malibu has the advantage. They have the ability to create the space with their main tank, while Noble does not have theirs. So this is a win for Malibu, all things considered. Echo, though, can't go down.
No, it has to play extremely cautious around that corner. But you've also got Ultima looking for an opportunity in the back onto Wannabe. All the while, Echo up front is going to get a clean pickup here onto 1, while the rest of the Malibu team lineup secures the others. The checkpoint's going to be obtained. Look, it's you barely scored.
Aiko's gonna get this kill, right?
I mean, great. Oh, there it is. You don't have 9 lives, friend.
I was gonna say, if my Crazy Cat survived that would have been like 5 lives used right there. That would have been something else, but Eiko hunts him down, and Noble, I mean, the way that they were playing at the start, I really liked, but they just push a little bit too forward. Teemo and Moose not on the same page necessarily, and once Teemo goes down, Malibu has such an advantage with that main tank presence, and they can push forward, and now they have an advantage with moving these ultimates through this second point here.
And look at how this amplification matrix was positioned. Even despite the channels of doorways that Noble can move through, there's not really a best practice position to go through. And oh my goodness, my Crazy Cat is trying to go for the wannabe pick, and you've got the assistance of the Genji up front. Ultimate now going to regroup after the assistance on the Widow play. Gets a pick onto Cedro, the slash melee as well. And that's going to start breaking down Malibu. And this is a difficult position for Malibu to try and recontest.
Really good rotation though coming out from Noble, where they see the flanking amplification matrix and they just see Odd is sitting on the cart by himself. They take down Odd, and then they can win the fight off of just their numbers advantage. Wannabe switching back over to the Ashe offers a little bit more utility in these enclosed areas. So Bob gonna be farmed very fast from this hit scan player, and there's the Hulk Flux to start this off.
Oh, nice way to lead in, gets multiple members. The Supercharger there is throwing some additional boosted damage, but there is gonna be far too much aggression on the front side. Teemo actually gets the counterpart taken down. Cedro will be taken out, and my Crazy Cat picks up a support, but I mean, this is quite back and forth. It really needs to be the slow, methodical recovery, and the Flux actually comes through to stabilize for Noble.
I mean, Pizza Demon did everything in that last fight, Rich. He uses an amplification matrix to keep his team alive, healed through that Hulk Flux, and then stays alive with the rest of his team to keep them alive off of the DPS that Malibu were using to hunt them down. Insane healing output coming out from Pizza Demon, but now it's Noble, or Malibu rather, getting back onto the start and starting the push.
Also, at least pull a few members out front so some damage can be chipped away onto Malibu. You do have now the Supercharger from Cedro to pivot around this corner. Still getting a lot of damage up front. Odd finds a Pizza Demon out in the open. Now as this rotation underneath collapses onto Tensa, the divided support line here is going to be really detrimental, and Noble gets to run.
Noble lose that fight, Rich, and it's Malibu who finally get it to this second checkpoint. And only off the back of a Supercharger, realistically, for Malibu did take that point, so not too shabby considering their ultimate economy coming into this C point, into the fidget spinner, as I like to call this, and we're moving, maybe a bit dated, that one. Maybe a bit.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm okay with that. I mean, even though it's got an extra fidget spinner edge with 4 versus 3, I still like it. And as much as I like that, I do like this blade coming in from Ultima. But the fact of the matter is you have a Flux up here in the corner, and Accretion Rock to shut it down, and Fish Cake securing that there is plenty of armor to respond. Malibu cleans that up as if you were playing some NPC.
And this time, the healing output from Pizza Demon, not enough to save them throughout that huge Hulk Flux. I mean, how many times are we going to see Cedro and Odd combo for these really huge ultimate abilities? It seems like every time there is a Flux, it's halted in by Cedro, and it gets a ton of value. And Malibu are walking into this. They have the Dragon Blade. Ultima used theirs in the last fight. So Malibu had a huge damage output coming into this next fight with that blade, but Odd goes down.
Oh, that's a huge pick. Wow, instantly turning this around. There's a flank even by Cedro, which is shut out instantly. And what a great recovery here.
Malibu did not respect the sights there coming out from My Crazy Cat, and it cost them dearly, Rich. And now they have to go back to the drawing board. They're gonna be able to keep their important ultimates. Cedro's also farmed up towards that Supercharger that he'll get in this next fight, so they can combo that with the blade and get that Super Blade, as I hear it been called recently by some of my co-casting cohorts.
Super Blade. Going out next time on the Super Blade Genji. Sorry, I had to. With now 2 minutes to go, you've got Eiko holding on to the blade. The Supercharger already leading into this fight, Teemo, but it's going to be solely that Supercharger to try and force back Malibu here. I don't think that was too useful at the moment. I think it could have been held onto a little bit longer, but this is a very slow, methodical play by Malibu.
Yeah, it was just to waste time, realistically, and Malibu did a great job of kiting away, so now they have the supercharger advantage. They have the blade to combo along with it again, and now they're trying to take the high ground. This is really smart rotations coming out from Malibu, but Cedro getting very low there.
Yeah, Cedro got domed, and if there was a second follow-up by Crazy Cat, that would have been detrimental. But the fact that you've got this dive in now just getting into the flux, though, unfortunately, the deflect is going to allow some survival, but Moose is there to instantly follow up onto it and transition back with the accretion rock up front. There is not enough to mitigate that stun and crowd control with the follow-up by Brig, and Teemo continuing to pull those retreating back into the fight. 60 seconds to go. Malibu is in their last fight.
A wonderful flux there comes out from Moose and stops the Super Blade from getting any value whatsoever. And Malibu, they're now in a little bit of a detrimental state when it comes to getting this last push. They have 45 seconds left, but with how far the spawns are away, Rich, and how when this fight is going to probably be starting, they're going to get only one last shot at this, especially with the Ant Matrix wasting even more time from Malibu's clock, making it absolutely certain this is going to be the last fight that they're going to.
Eiko almost gets Crazy Cat there. There was a quick evasion out of the way with the grapple to just barely skirt out of that less advantageous position. And my Crazy Cat playing this outer platform is really helping this defensive side of Noble. Nobody is responding to it. The Immortality Field is picked off and finds Ultraviolet in the midst of it. No spread AoE healing. The flux comes
Oh
out.
my gosh.
No Immortality Field to survive because the early pick came through. An unbelievable change up here. That's solely relying on the lead picks from Crazy Cat. The overtime commences. But with this few remaining members of Malibu, you've got now the regroup coming from Noble to compete on this point. The dash out up front to compete and deflecting a lot of the incoming damage. Supercharger now just behind the payload to block some of the incoming damage as the Super Blade returns from Noble. Can it gain value? Odd going to respond and instantly take down that blade. Goes from Super Blade to Super Blade. And overtime still commences. A flux from Moose manages to get two though. That could be enough. The overtime continues holding with just a sliver left. The few meters. The Supercharger out from Malibu. You might be able to hold on to it. The Tracer touches the point. You've got the Moira as well. It's still buying some time. The Doofus now by my Crazy Cat needs to punch onto the point. Gets there. And the Wrecking Ball now comes in. But there is not going to be enough to stagger this for much longer. This Wrecking Ball needs to spin to win.
The respawns are there, Rich, but they're not there in time. And Malibu caps it. I mean, what an insane last fight from Malibu. Cedro, the man, the myth, the legend, standing there in the cart, the stalwart defender, is able to keep Malibu's hopes alive in taking that point, gets the supercharger, the damage is there, Wannabe is hitting pot shots from on high, and Malibu, against all odds it seemed, because they started that fight 4v6 with respawns not being in their favor, and that was an insane clutch from Malibu, capping all 3 points. Congratulations to them, because that was a fight and a half.
Yeah, I am still baffled at the recovery because of how, and to be fair, let's give some major props to my Crazy Cat, because those early picks should have rightfully won them the fight. Like, that should have been it. You had the Immortality Field nullified. The Flux came in with the double. Nobody could respond with an Immortality Field at that time. But the fact that Malibu was able to reconvene back enough, and Cedro, as you said, just bolster and fortify through it all is just unreal.
I mean, you need to catch your breath a little bit. That was an insane fight for you specifically, because you were going at 100 miles an hour there. I'll take it from here, though, Rich. And you see Malibu, they're going to be on the composition that didn't expect anything to change. Wannabe's going to be on this Widowmaker. We're going to have to look out for, especially on A, the battle between my Crazy Cat and Wannabe, but also the battle between those Widowmakers and the Genjis as well, if they want to put any pressure onto the opposing team.
Oh, close to picking that doorway. Wannabe was getting greedy. And you now see my Crazy Cat playing that high ground position for a crossfire as the focus is to that right-hand position for a potential flank, getting a lot of shuriken damage from Ultima. But again, you still have Malibu playing very reserved here with this further back position.
Just again, waiting patiently for one of the picks to come through. Eiko, you see, is on the flank, dueling with Ultima Web. And Eiko's getting the better of it so far, has 15% advantage in terms of their ultimate charges.
Yeah, the ultimate charges here is very substantial. You've got twice the amount. Ooh, but here is my crazy cat wanting to find that pick onto. No! Between the box and the payload, Wannabe gets the sight line, and you now have the momentum and this dominant, raging force within that small micro room for Malibu to take down all of Noble.
I mean, come on, Wannabe, you can't do that to my crazy cat. He's got a family. You can't just do it to him like that.
He's in everything.
I mean, that is just unreal. Widow play coming out from Wannabe takes off my crazy cat's head, and then the fight is done from there. Ant Matrix coming out. They got to retreat here for Noble.
Oh, instantly. And you. Oh no, Wannabe, why? Why?
He's doing it to him, dude. He's just doing it to him. Someone stop this man. You can't stop him though. That's the thing. No one. Ultra F can't stop him. My crazy can't stop him. Noble cannot seem to stop Wannabe when he is playing at this level. And Malibu, in this next fight, they have a treasure trove of ultimates to work with. Noble have some of theirs. The support ones. I mean, that would have been nuts.
Almost. You play such a risky game when you grapple for that, because that slow momentum and descent from that upward position just lines up Wannabe's shot. Does come shy, so it still allows this contest between the Widows. Ultima, though, looking for a flanking position. The Flux is there, but actually gets moved out of it. Could be a chance now for Ultima to come in with the Dragon Blade to follow up. Go straight for Wannabe in the back, and it's going to be a focus fire with that blade. But your team is being obliterated on the payload. What are you crouching for?
I mean, hey, he got the kill. He got the kill. You know, he had to commit blade to it. He got the kill. He's gonna say, "That's one for me that you didn't win." And Ultima Web gonna be in the back here trying to get some damage done to these straggler picks and putting some pressure onto these DPS now. But the car is still moving throughout all this. It's not being finally contested. Okay, Wannabe.
Oh my! Ultima! Ultima has a goal. Has a goal in life, and it is to take down Wannabe. As you've got the info coming out from Wannabe to get some decent sightlines on all members here, so you will not have Ultima finding a position. Almost another shot onto my crazy cat, misses the head and gets the body. And this is now 55 seconds of detrimental time for Noble.
I mean, it's just been 55 seconds of Wannabe just asserting his dominance right now. Oh, he almost gets hit right there and taken down.
Oh, but the Dragon Blade up front by Eiko. All the while, you've got the focus on the Widows. The Blade's gonna clean up here. This is gonna be one last attempt now for Noble to reach this checkpoint.
Last fight here. My crazy cat's going down. They need to get these stragglers back into spawn and keep them alive for their last chance. My crazy cat is going to have the sights, which is important because then Wannabe should be in a position where my crazy cat knows no threat of him taking his head off, hopefully for him.
Almost gets the pick on the support. There it comes with after the rise from the Flux on boost. That's what Noble needs. Another pick onto Odd Intense that comes through. There's no way that Wannabe's going to be sticking around for that one. And this payload does have a chance to reach the checkpoint, but there is still a small margin of space for a potential recontest by Malibu.
They can definitely recontest here, and they're making swaps to do so, Rich. Cedro going on to the Hammond. They want to stop it right here. They want to go home. They want to go eat their dinners. They don't want to play anymore. They want it to end right now. Gravitic Flux is available for Odd. It's the most important ultimate that they have to work with.
Wannabe looks for that pick in the back, but the Dragon Blade comes out. Does get a pick and looks for now the Widow. Hyper-focused onto my crazy cat. And you've got Ultima with a triple in the back line. Uncontested, the quad with the dash reset. Ultima is on fire right now. And it will be a checkpoint reached here for Noble.
Malibu don't full hold, but Noble are able to take the end. Ultima Web is going onto the Bastion. Rich, do my eyes deceive me? Are we seeing pirate ship on Junkertown? I feel like I've gone into a time machine and gone back a couple of years. We have not seen the Bastion play on Junkertown for a very long time, it feels like, and Ultima Web is bringing it out when they need it most.
Go big or go home, and it is a tried and true Bastion pirate. Where's the sails, my friends? We saw a rebar already from Noble, and now we're getting the Omnic, and now you see this forward position by my crazy cat along with the dual shield, but with that high ground position, you're going to leave Bastion a little bit open for a collapse. Ultima getting hit in the corner while we still have my crazy cat looking for some sightlines. With that position up top, it's going to now force this payload to be no longer the focus. The rise and fall of the Flux, the transition from Odd, the kinetic press to gain huge defensive shield to maintain this, and there is still a chance to stick in this from Noble. You have the Bastion uncontested on the high ground. Ultraviolet will get a pick on the Pizza Demon to prevent the immortality field, but with this supercharger now, the tank configuration comes out, trying to turn this corner, but you've got Malibu playing defensively in this narrow corridor, and the shields will block that damage.
I mean, Malibu is playing so well around these sightlines from the Bastion, but they have to get on cart.
Oh, it's just under 2 meters. The rotations are great, but you're missing the objective as that huge Flux comes through again. I'm going to be overrun up front. The pick comes through, and the saving grace is really this unique play from Noble.
It's not
completely catching him off guard.
It's not done. Seeger's still on cart. Seeger's still there. He's still alive. He has 50% health. Can someone get back in time to save him? No, they can't.
Nope, Cedro has done it once, and Noble will not allow it to happen a second time. Cedro, you are bolstered, and you are a fortress of an Omnic, but not this time.
And Wannabe there switched over to the Sombra. I think he's going to switch back, most likely to the Ashe here. The Sombra was just there in case the Bastion was still staying. And now My Crazy Cat has actually switched over to the Reaper. So a little bit of what we saw from Hollywood, and it worked out pretty well. Going to be able to eat some of these CCs. But Malibu, again, in the game of chess, they're going back to Wannabe on that Echo. It worked so well against the Reaper last time. But here it's a little bit more enclosed, and you don't have that infinite skybox to work with if you're the Echo.
And My Crazy Cat almost get to that high ground with that nice positioning. Does get the Wraith form up top to now start to compete against Wannabe and the Genji play, but does get sought out. Eiko actually almost about to go down in the outskirts of this fight, but will survive. Cedro has the supercharger for this defensive side of Malibu. You've got a great recovery here, 60 seconds still to go. And this is going to be a lot of ults for Malibu to transition for this final fight, as Moose is actually going to lead here with the Flux, Kenobi.
Yeah, they're committing Flux to this as well, so that's an ultimate they're not going to have back for the rest of the time. It doesn't get a lot of value, Rich, not even Immortality Field.
Oh, but some value came through by Ultraviolet and Eiko, getting the double kill to keep pushing this forward and defend against Noble. 45 seconds. Tensa is the only one remaining for the time being, and this is final hour here for Noble.
That is 100% one that Odd is or Moose rather is going to want to have back for this next fight. Last fight territory here for Noble. They do it now, or they don't do it at all, and they get 3-0'd out of Contenders Trials. And they don't have a lot of ultimates to work with. Ultimate Web has to be huge with this Dragon Blade. It's the only thing that they have, but on the other side, Eiko has one of their own.
Positioning will be key for that blade. Eiko is reserved for this fight. You also have Ultraviolet looking for that forward push from Noble to drop it. You now have it active, forcing a lot of damage into that funneled window. You have only one from Moose going to transition through there to give a little bit of a distraction, and those rotating spinners are not actually going to give much vision. Now with Eiko getting the blade, jumping onto Moose, but does survive. The immortality field is there to keep it up, with Pizza Demon generating an amplification matrix and needs to be dropped. Finally entering into the midst of it all, you have Noble actually persevering on this attack into the overtime. The respawn is going to have to come through quickly here as Wannabe has to digress back with that duplicate on the Sigma reaching its end. Few meters remaining. Cedro is getting back here with the supercharger. Gonna drop it, but does go down. Timo gets the momentum with Moose on the front. Ultima as well. The Lucio comes out, and the staggers are not going to be enough. You've got Noble reaching it with the last few meters and completing it with both teams having 60 seconds for another attempt.
That was nuts, Rich. I mean, credit entirely to Ultima Web, who has a nutty counter blade there. It forces Eiko's blade to go back, and then he kills Eiko, which means the Dragon Blade gets not a lot of value whatsoever and zones him out. And then they lose off of the back of all of those staggered kills. They're just fighting continuously to gain a foothold, but they can't, and Noble is able to cap at the same time in overtime as Malibu. So both of these teams get one last shot at these offenses with a minute left. It's been a wild map so far for both of these teams. And for Noble, I wonder, man, I want to see more of the Bastion play. Give me more Ultima Wet Bastion. Yeah, it's Ultima Wet Bastion, right? Yeah.
Right?
Give me more of that. Give me more of that. I would like to see it.
I mean, I would actually not be so surprised to see it on the attack, once you have the sides swapped. You're going to have Malibu first here again, just because of the most recent exchange. You had Noble on the attacking side, so it'll swap because they both have the same time frame here. But I mean, you're right. This is a roller coaster between these two on Junkertown right now. And my crazy cat on this defense had a real struggle the round prior on the reverse side. And my crazy cat is going to have to make sure that they are protecting their kittens and needs to get these shots.
Yeah, but there is only a minute left, Rich. I can't stress that enough that this is, you realistically only get 2 fights most likely without just getting into overtime completely. Cedro getting insanely low here, needs to be helped out. But again, you lose 1 fight here for either team, and it almost could just be the end of the push entirely from Malibu's side. And for Noble, if you lose that fight, they probably push it all the way into first.
Look at my crazy cat already, 60%. The amount of damage they pumped out onto Cedro is insane. To now have this type of vision, if crazy cat can get that infra soon enough to try and pick off Wannabe and these advantageous positions that he's trying to take, it's going to be a real benefit. 20 seconds now to go. You've got the aggression up front. My crazy cat gets odd, and that's your numbers advantage. Cedro being picked away as well. The bodies come through, and now you've got Wannabe finding the shot over the top because my crazy cat focuses the front line. Malibu with seconds to go, needs to get back onto this point. Wannabe harassed by Ultima in the front side, but does get taken down. Aiko low, the overtime still commencing, and this could be a recontest with now wrecking ball from Odd and Cedro on the Ryan. This is such a scrappy changeup to keep this going, even for the slight extra meters. Aiko takes down my crazy, and the push continues.
The respawns are there for Malibu. They're gonna do it. They're gonna win this fight as well. But Ultima, no, he doesn't. He takes down Ultraviolet. Echo's dead as well. But Cedro swinging the hammer like nobody's business right now.
Oh, and you've got Tensa now with a rally, getting the extra armor to try and bolster the morale, and the immortality field comes out now from Pizza Demon to sustain. The numbers are coming back. Crazy forces out the infra to give some vision for the remaining. Trying to push my crazy cat on the high ground. Cannot find the dome. Wannabe on the floor. Gets the double. My crazy picks it off under 5 meters, and that's gonna be Noble, able to reduce the rubble that is Malibu, and the overtime shuts down. No tick obtained, and you've got Noble now with a landmark to reach.
What is happening, Rich? This map is insanity completely from both of these teams. It looked like it could have swung either way. Malibu comes back on the Wrecking Ball, on the Reinhardt. It looks like they have the kills, but Moose, with the amazing Gravitic Flux in the end, keeps Noble away from losing point A. And Malibu, win condition is set for them. Just stop them from getting to that golden box of victory right before point A, but whew.
I don't know how you feel, viewers. This is like the game that keeps on giving right now. I mean, seriously,
Agreed.
you know?
Hard agree. I mean, we've seen almost everything. We've seen Bastion, we've seen Reaper somehow is in the meta again. It's just been a wild ride. And Noble don't want to go quietly into this good night. They want to keep this series going. Don't want to get 3-0'd at the end of their journey in Contenders Trials. But again, who's going to win between Wannabe and My Crazy Cat? We saw My Crazy Cat put a ton of pressure on the defensive side onto Malibu's attack. And now it's Wannabe's turn to try and do the same thing. We'll have to see as these doors open up and we get this one last part of this.
You took the words out of my mouth. Do not go gentle into that good night, as these high ground positions with My Crazy Cat almost gets the pick onto Wannabe, just a little off in their sight line. Wannabe gonna play back further towards where that green box of victory is here for Noble, and it's honestly, again, a slow, methodical play right now.
They're just waiting patiently. They're giving up space. They just want to have this one single fight. My Crazy Cat gets slow, is pressured out by Aiko. This is good from him so far.
Oh, and there's still the Genji duel happening on the side position, but does dash in with the halt. Malibu in a good position with that boosted damage from so many. Ultraviolet also nearing this amplification matrix to force a lot of pressure onto Noble, but still no one being taken down from either side.
But there's only 10 seconds left, Rich. This is going to be the last fight here. Something's got to get between both of these teams. Ultraviolet has the ability to have that amplification matrix before Pizza Demon does.
Oh, and you've got Wannabe getting a little aggressive around the corner. Doesn't get found by Crazy Cat. The halt to pull Wannabe up. Doesn't get taken out again. The overtime commencing. Low health values for Malibu here. You got the pick by Wannabe. That's door. Now step through it, Malibu. The overtime is here. You've got the immortality taken down. The flux as well will start to send this victory in favor of Malibu. Noble's demise comes to resolve, and you have underneath that archway Malibu winning this match 3-0.
Noble put up a good fight, but in the end, we started talking about it, Rich. We'll finish talking about him. It's Wannabe, the hero of the day, takes off My Crazy Cat's head, and from there, all of Malibu knows the fight is as good as won for us. And clean 3-0 coming out from them. And what a Junkertown map we just had. What a way to end it, and what a way to end Contenders Trials NA for this week.
Absolutely. My goodness. What a way to end on a map. I mean, seriously. I mean, I know you said Malibu had a clean 3-0, but that last one was definitely I've heard many others say it, a slobber knocker. I love hearing that term, and this right now qualifies as that title.
I definitely agree with that. Slobber knocker is a way that I definitely would put that, but I mean, to bring it down a little bit, I mean, for Malibu, congratulations to them, obviously winning this one 3-0. Unfortunately, because of the results from our other matchup, they will not be able to get into Contenders proper, but they are going to be going back to Contenders Trials, so we'll see them again for sure. And this team has been so fun for me to watch. I mean, ever since I've been watching them from the first trials that I saw them in, coming into Contenders, coming into the trials now, they've always been really, really good. But the other stream isn't over yet, Rich. So we still got some more games to talk about.
Yes, indeed. Since we are finding our conclusion here after quite an intense matchup, you can still continue to watch more Overwatch. Again, that is also the continuation for Group B. That matchup is still occurring. So you can definitely take some time. If you've got some leftover here, since we got that 3-0 in favor of Malibu, you can go ahead and see Karasuno versus Revival on that alternative channel. But seriously, Kenobi, this has been a spectacular matchup between these two, laying it all on the line. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here. For all of our production and observers, great job giving us all of those amazing angles on this matchup between the two for Junkertown. So we hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. Definitely find that alternative channel link here for Elo Hell so you can continue to watch it. So take care, happy gaming, friends, and we will look to see you next time.